Wants to see. This is the beauty of putting our house on the market, and we came home to find that we had a fire. There it is.
5 years before our house caught fire during an open house, we asked a question. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't a breakdown. It was a clock. Actually, 3 clocks. Amy's career clock, my age clock, and our kids' clock. Sloan and Blake would be in college in 5 years. 5 years. That was abstract, but that was a window. When the kids launch, when careers plateaus, when pension math becomes real, that's the opening. And we didn't want to get there and realize that we hadn't thought about it. We didn't want to wake up one morning, the house quiet, and ask, now what? At the time, Amy was a public charter school superintendent in South Orange County. She'd finished her PhD from USC a couple of years earlier, and we were still paying the loans. She was ambitious and capable and very good at what she did. The plan had always been for her to work another 10 or 15 years. Retirement for her was never even part of the conversation. And then COVID hit. Schools didn't just educate anymore. They absorbed everything. Policies, pressures, parents, politics. The entire system moved online for more than a year. And when the pandemic faded, the tension didn't disappear, it shifted. The job became less about improving outcomes and more about navigating conflict. Amy wasn't burned out, but she was carrying a lot of weight. And at the same time, something practical changed. Her pension was based on her 3 highest earning years. As a young superintendent earning good money, the math started to look different. If she stayed in that role through this window that we were approaching, her pension at 55 would be strong. A real annuity, not some theoretical savings. You know, at that time, we didn't have piles of cash sitting around, but we had optionality. And that optionality changes perspective. Meanwhile, I was 55. And retiring at 55 had always been the goal. That was the number. That was the finish line that I'd always thought about it as I was growing up. But suddenly I was there. And I really hadn't defined what retirement meant for me. Did I want to work for one more promotion? Did I want to work for myself? Did I want to slow down? What was I optimizing for? We had spent decades building, but what were we building toward next? Our kids were thriving. They were healthy, they were happy, they were achievers, maybe overachievers. We had 2 strong careers, no debt, a beautiful home that we lived in for 24 years. Our parents were still alive. We had community. We had stability. And we had Tito, 100 pounds of Bernese Mountain Dog who goes everywhere with us and completes our family. From the outside, it looked complete. Nothing was broken. It was working, which made the question uncomfortable. If career progression and parenting young kids were no longer the primary drivers, what replaces them? Once that question exists, you start planning. You know, California is expensive. And while our house appreciated significantly, if we stayed, we had to work. That was the path. It's not a bad path, and that's what most of us were expected to do. But there was another path. Sell the appreciating asset, move somewhere less expensive, and use that equity to buy time. So we explored it. We looked at Texas. We looked at Florida. We looked at Arizona, the Sun Belt, where a lot of people go to retire. And on paper, it worked. But you know what? Climate matters. Phoenix recorded 113 consecutive days over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not summer. For a Bernese Mountain Dog, that's one of the lower levels of Dante's Inferno. Tito didn't growl. He didn't need to. But the Sun Belt was vetoed before we finished the sentence. So we looked north. Idaho, Montana, lake called Whitefish. Lake towns, open space, lower burn rate.
20 minutes
Gets cold there.
Missoula, has power,
Now that part, Tito understood.
cloud,
Amy and I, not so much. But even though but even then, Tito might not have gotten enough pets. We like density. We like walkable streets. We like being 15 minutes from great pho or excellent Thai food. Not one option, but multiple good restaurants. And Tito understands that. He likes a good pho just as much as the next guy. He likes sidewalks. He likes strangers. He likes being where things are happening. Whitefish was beautiful, but beautiful isn't the same as aligned. And when it became clear that we weren't trying to slow down our life, we were trying to define the next chapter, something ahead of us, something to look forward when the kids launched and our careers plateaued. It took us about a year into that process. And I remember the exact moment. We were sitting in the house, and I remember the light. I remember Amy's expression. I even remember the way I moved my hands when I said it. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't a grand plan. It was almost a throwaway line. What if we sailed around the world? Not around the world, but around the world. Not as a vacation, not as a hobby. We sell the house, we buy a boat, we leave. The idea just sat there. We didn't know what it meant. But for the first time, the question, what's next, felt like a direction. Instead of doing something dramatic, we did something small. You know when you're a kid and someone says, try this food, you've never had it before, and you take a little bit on just one tine of the fork, and you're already making that face before you bring that, before that food even touches your mouth. That's what this was. Could sailing around the world survive that first bite? So we signed up for a 4-hour social sale at the Aventura Social Club in Dana Point. Not to launch a new life, but to taste it. Because before you sail around the world, you have to get out of the house. In the next episode, that 4 hours could have ended the whole thing. Come back. There we go.
Tito! Tito, hello! Good boy!